Okay, very good. And we are live. A very warm welcome, all of you. My name is Hendrik Dekkers. I'm the founder of CIONET, and it's my pleasure and my privilege to welcome you to the 21st edition of CIONEXT, which is our flagship online conference. We will be joined by thousands of attendees around the world to discuss, are we witnessing the end of IT leadership? Now, before we get started, I have a couple of announcements that I want to make. And first of all, I would like to thank the wonderful people at Fujitsu for doing this as a collaboration, for supporting this program. So thank you very much, John and Emma and Ben and all the other good people for setting up this program together. A second thing that I want to get your attention to is that the 5 panelists that we will bring on screen here in a moment, I've visited all 5 of them, and we've sat down for more than an hour, and we did a long format leadership deep dive interview with each one of them. And these interviews, they're available on YouTube, they're available on CIONET.tv, our own website, they're available at podcasts in Spotify, in your Google, Apple podcast, whatever your preferred podcast platform is. So these 5 videos are there, the 5 podcasts are there among the more than 130 leadership deep dive interviews that we have done over the last couple of years. CIONET is all about IT leadership. We like to celebrate IT leadership, and we like to especially celebrate female IT leadership. And for that, we have set up a female leadership circle, a kind of a community within our community, which is called the Women of CIONET, and that's becoming a very, very active circle. And so they have upcoming activities on the 12th of May in Germany, the 13th in Belgium, and the 15th of May in UK. So if you are a female leader and you're interested to join, check out CIONET.com/events, and you will find all details for that. And with that, we are ready to bring on everybody on stage. Let me do that here right now. And so here we are, and somebody's doing an echo. So if you could check that out, please. So welcome everybody. Our title of our conference is The End of IT Leadership. I'm gonna just mute. Okay. Thank you so much. So it is the end of IT leadership, but today we will also explore a deeper question, and that is why every technology leader, and it must also be a business leader, and why IT leadership and business leadership are converging. So let me be your guide for the next 90 minutes in that. The ground beneath leadership is shifting, technology is pervasive, and IT leaders are pushed from control to enablement. And so they need ever more sharper business acumen. Simultaneously, businesses demand speed, they demand agility, and they demand value through continuous delivery of solutions and through strategic partnerships. And that are some of the important topics that we are going to talk about. But maybe it's only half of the story. I mean, IT leaders need to be business leaders, but also business leaders equally need to step up their technology understanding. So let's explore this convergence with our distinguished panel. And so we have with us here today Aaron Stafford, who's the Group Senior Director for Global Security, Cloud Infrastructure, and ERP Operations at A6 Technology, who joins us from The Hague in Amsterdam. John Walsh is the VP and CTO for Fujitsu Services Europe, who joins us from Dublin. We have Jose Antonio Lopez, also known as Gal, who is the Group CIO for TOS company in Barcelona in Spain. We have Sharon Pryor, who is a very experienced CIO, previous roles at the Post Office, JSK and Heathrow, who joins us from London in the UK. And Tom Tange, who is the General Manager, IT Center EMEA for Daikin Europe, who joins us from Ostend in Belgium. So a very warm welcome to all of you. So we're going to get started with some quick introductions. And so I would like to ask each one of you to tell us again, who are you, what's your role, what's your company all about, and perhaps maybe share one key perspective that you can bring to today's team. So Aaron, if you could kick it off, please.
Thank you, Hendrik. It's good to be here. Thanks a lot. I'm Aaron Stafford. I basically lead the global security, cloud infrastructure, and ERP operations for ASICS. And what I find is fascinating working for this company. We're the premium sportswear brand that believes in the positive benefits of movement. We're also a technical and a digital company. We are digital in the fact that we use technology to innovate. We use digital to maximize the touch points with our customers. And digital is the path we're going to be using toward a more sustainable future and seeking efficiencies in what we do. And as an IT leader, as a technologist, none of my skills really count unless I understand the organization and what it takes to get the shoes into the hands, or in fact on the feet, of our customers. Everything from materials to manufacturing, distribution to retail, e-commerce, loyalty, B2B, direct to consumer. Unless I understand these things and what the company aspires to be within that context, I am just the techo from downstairs. So for me, I do believe that the IT leader, as we knew it, is no longer what we thought it was. It is a business leader, because the business is technology.
Okay, Aaron, thank you so much for that introduction. By the way, ASICS is an abbreviation. Can you remind us again what it stands for?
It is Anima Sana in Corpora Sano, which broadly speaking is a sound mind in a sound body.
Okay, and that's what we need these days, especially, I would say. Thank you so much for the introduction, Aaron. John, you come from to us from Dublin. Let me unmute you. There you go.
Hello, everybody. My name is John Walsh. I am the CTO for Fujitsu in Europe. I'm a VP in the technology division. That's a very grand title, I know. In simple terms, I'm a mathematician and an engineer. A little bit about Fujitsu. We focus on sustainable society, building sustainable solutions by building trust in society through innovation. A grand title, but it fundamentally means that what we attempt to do and what we hope to do is indeed build sustainable solutions. Solutions that contribute to society. And we do that by innovating and achieving trust in those innovations. Now, when I looked at the title, and Henrik came to visit me in Dublin at this, IT leadership is dead, the very first thing I said is absolutely not. I said the nature of the job has just changed. First and foremost, you still need to be a technologist. You still need to understand the technology. You need to get closer to the business. You're a teacher. And when I use that phrase, I mean, Einstein once said, if you can't explain it simply, then you don't understand it well enough. So it's your job to bring the knowledge of technology to the business and how you will enable the business. You're also a student. Things are changing so rapidly. You need to be learning something new almost every day. And part you're a lawyer because you need to understand GDPR and how data is handled in your organization. And you're a leader of people. So when I saw the title first, I said, no, strange title, don't agree. I think I'll leave it there for a moment.
Okay, thank you so much for that introduction, John. Jose Antonio Lopez, also known as Hal, please introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah, hello. So first of all, thank you for inviting us to this amazing meeting. There are great people here, and I'm sure we're going to learn a lot from each other. I am let's talk first of all about me. I'm a computer engineer, and I've been working more than 20 years in big infrastructure companies like highways, airports, logistics area, these kind of things. So big infrastructure. And lately, I joined TOS. TOS is a jewelry company. As you mentioned before, it's a jewelry company based in Spain, in Barcelona, particularly, and we are very focused on offering an affordable jewels to our customers. We are present in 40 countries, and we have around, or a little bit, 600 stores around the world, a part of the e-commerce channels, of course. And answering your question on where we are focused as an IT, I think all of us will repeat the same message. So we'll be very close to our customers. We need to understand what our business needs. And when you see a business like ours, which is a desirable business, so we are not a basic requirements offering. So we work in a business where we generate passion and we generate illusion. So how we can offer this through technology, it's our main challenges. And probably afterwards we'll talk about a little bit.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gal, for that introduction. Sharon from London, over to you. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Henrik. And as everyone else has already said, it really is a pleasure to be part of this discussion. And I think it's going to be really great getting into the detail of it. Myself, I'd describe me as a technology and business leader. I've had over 20 years of experience. I've also had the privilege of leading digital and transformation across so many different business sectors, including aviation, retail, government and pharma. I have held CIO and IT director roles. As you introduced me, Henrik, I worked at organizations like Heathrow Airport, Card Factory, Post Office, the GSK, and others. And each one of the roles, I think, had a thing in common that I like to actually sort of build the picture of. And that was really the need to translate technology into real business value. And that's been a common theme, whether it's through operational efficiency, customer experience or growth. These are things that I see as a common theme. If I had to sort of sum up my perspective in this whole question about the end of IT leadership, it would be this: that the CIO role has fundamentally changed in the decades since I first joined IT. It has absolutely changed. We're no longer looked at as technology leaders. We're just business leaders. And that means we absolutely have to be commercially savvy. We have to have deeply customer focused views. We have to really drive outcome relentlessly. But at the same time, business leaders need to get closer to technology. So it's a double-edged sword, really. And they need to understand the role that it plays in delivering, whether it's agility, innovation, or competitive advantage. So for me, this convergence that we're talking about today between IT leadership and business leadership, it isn't a future trend. It's already here. And that's what I've been experiencing. So we're now operating in a world where IT has shifted really from being in control of technology to actually enabling business. And that's through whether it's cloud or AI or automation. It's all empowering business units in my belief. So just on the human side, I just want to quickly touch on my background. So I have a non-technical background. I have a master's in law and an MBA. So I do really think through what that actually means for my leadership style, both commercially and people focused. And that's what I
That makes it very interesting, Sharon, that you don't have this typical engineering background. So thank you so much for that introduction. Tom, over to you, sir. If you could please introduce yourself.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Tom Tange. I'm the General Manager of IT Center EMEA for DIC in Europe. So maybe a little bit about my background. So actually, I started my career more in a business role. So I worked 5 years also for Volvo Cars as a productivity and quality driver. So really looking how to improve productivity and quality. And then, okay, by also being in touch with loading software in the cars, I moved into Volvo IT, and later on in 2001, I made the move into Daikin, where, okay, I've mainly been in several IT roles, from IT operations, also doing a lot of projects in digital marketing, until a point where I was responsible to, let's say, consolidate the IT organization within Europe. From there, I also lived and worked 2 years in Spain to set up a second competence center for IT. Came back, took up a business role again in digital marketing, then moved back into IT and infrastructure. And since 3 years, I'm the general manager at Daikin Europe. So actually, as IT, we deliver the shared services to the whole EMEA region. So being through the whole value chain internally, but as well, we offer a number of touch points that go directly to customers. This in addition to complementing tools that are being offered more from a sales and an R&D perspective. What does Daikin Europe do? So actually, we are a well-known brand for products in the space of heating, air conditioning, ventilation, refrigeration. But we also more and more focus on the service side of things, as well as building a solution from all the products that we have. So really coming to a fully ready solution. Okay, my take on the topic of today, the end of IT leadership. I think as many people here, we don't fully agree that it's the end, but it's maybe the start of something new. And I do believe that, okay, it's both a change that is required, as also mentioned by Sharon, we being closer to business, but what we also feel in our company, there's also a necessity that business leaders step a bit closer into IT in improving their overall knowledge of technology and IT in general.
Yeah, let's discuss further on in the conversation here if the role of the CIO is going to be taken over by an AI agent or not, and in what year that we can expect that. So, but anyway, we're going to start with the first part of the discussion where we talk about control versus enablement. And so with SaaS computing, with cloud computing, with low code, no code, with AI, with automation, now being very prevalent everywhere, the lines of businesses are empowered to experiment, to execute, and even to scale their own technology initiatives. And so that reduces their dependencies on the IT functions. And so the CIO's focus nowadays is really to empower the organization by establishing guardrails, right? Standards, security, resilience, predictability, compliance, and so on. So while basically providing a platform for innovation at the same time. So Sharon, I want to start with you. In our lovely interview, you mentioned that there's a need for enterprise architecture, for enterprise architects to design a long-term view amidst all of this. So how do you effectively do that in your experience? How do you make sure that you set the security, the standards, the compliance, and so on, rather than obstruct the business-led tech initiatives? Over to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Anyone who's worked with me or been part of my team knows that I am passionate about enterprise architecture. But in reality, it is actually a balancing act. And one I believe is more critical than ever with business teams, because we have to take the lead in driving and improving digital initiatives. So for me, the key really is in shifting mindsets around enterprise architecture from being what used to be in the old world a real gatekeeper to really becoming more of a strategic enabler. And the role, I think, and IT more broadly, in fact, isn't to slow things down with layers and layers of governance. It really is to create what I would call some clear and trusted frameworks that gives the business confidence to move forward and move forward fastly without breaking things. So the focus really is on building what I call the empowering guardrails, and that means setting very clear standards around the security, compliance, the interoperability between systems, but doing it in a way that's really transparent and is also flexible. But it has to empower in the business workflow. It can't slow things down. So I think of it more as, or actually I think of it less as traffic lights and that says just stop or go, but more like managing markings on a motorway. It keeps everyone aligned, but still keeps things moving very, very quickly. In practice, I think what this means is that involving the enterprise architect really early on as a business in product and innovative or any initiative changes and designs, because they have to be part of the solution and not a hurdle that's put in at the end. And that means building all of the, and enterprise architects need to do this. They need to build the reusable assets and have the platforms that they've pre-approved with the APIs and the data models and the security patterns all built in, so that businesses can plug in very easy without having to reinvent the wheel time and time ago and go through lengthy approval cycles. I can give a quick example. So at Heathrow, we enabled the operations team to experiment with the low-code automated tools, but within a framework that really helped with the data flows and security protocols. And that support structure was agreed. And that gave them the freedom to innovate and scale in a secure and integrated way. So yeah, ultimately it's about trust at the end of the day. These guardrails have to be about trust. And if IT can demonstrate that the guardrails are there to accelerate rather than restrict, the business will see IT not as a blocker, but as a partner for innovation.
Very good. I would invite all the other panelists to chip in and to react to this, so that we can really make it into. Maybe you first need to unmute yourself. Please do so if you want to react to any of the comments. At the same time, we have hundreds of people that are following us on the live page on our website, and they're joining in on the comments. So the first questions are coming in. We will record them and bring them back to the panel in a moment. Maybe I first want to go to Gal. Gal, in our interview, you talked about technology as a differentiator for TOS, right? So how does the trend of decentralized tech adoption impact your ability to maintain a cohesive strategic IT direction that really sets the company apart? And how do you ensure that these citizens, developers really align with the core strategy? So in your retail jewelry business, how does that work?
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with Sharon. I think our mission is to help our business leaders to define and follow them how we can convert the requirements into technology solutions. What happened today is that in most of our department, and I'm talking about our case, we have great profiles with enough knowledge to even by themselves deploy some part of the technology. How we handle this? It's more or less the same approach that Shannon mentioned. So what we have is a framework, is a general framework, where we have this settled, let's say, the basement infrastructure, security, data management, legal requirements, the kind of things. So, and this is not negotiable. And then on top of that, we offer some tools from where some department with the proper skills can develop solutions. Most of them are local solutions. After I explain how we organize around this. So this is the first topic. The second one is what do we do with data? I think data here is key. At least in our case, what we try to do by ourselves is try to coordinate data management. So for us will be a chaos if data is spread under control around the company. So data now, I think all of us will agree, is the fuel of the future AI potential technology. So, but you need the data, and data requires professionals very focused on data. For that reason, we include in our team CDO, a data team who coordinates data. At the same time, it's a federated role with data managers and data stewards are on the business units. But someone in IT helps them to coordinate that they are using the same information, the same understanding of the same data. That's the second topic. The third one is governance. I think also Sharon mentioned this. Governance today is critical. So there's those days where IT handle everything in technology has gone. Now you need to coordinate different teams from inside your company, also for third parties. Some of them came on behalf of our business units. And then coordination of all these interests is something that requires some resources there. So governance, not only project management, but also how we generate value, how we can calculate business cases where those business units can explain the company what are going to do, how we're going to do, but mostly what are we getting in your hands. So which is the value generation through technology. That was in the past driven directly by CEOs, by ourselves. Today, in those are the business units who define and present all the projects, even the technology that's in behind the project itself. And how we do this is what I introduced before, is a federal model. So we have very good technology skills in every business unit. You have to have in mind that you have all our production chains handled by ourselves. So we design our jewels, we produce our jewels with our factories, we distribute our jewels, and we sell our own jewels. So it's a lot of touch points where are engineers behind. And if you have engineers in the business units, you have to help them to deploy all this power that they have, because they really know what is needed. So from our perspective, retail is a fast-moving sector. We have to react very fast because now market is changing, and you have to react on, for example, these taxes changing and logistic changes very fast. So how we can use technology to reduce the impact of that is something that we take profit of those profiles that are on every department in TOS.
Okay. I've got a question to everybody in the panel, so please chip in a question from the audience. And they say, where in the IT value chain do you see the biggest disconnect between business expectations and IT's ability to deliver? And what leadership shift is needed to close the gap? So where do things go wrong in this alignment, in this governance alignment? What's still not working out there? Please let me know that. Tom, please, yes.
Well, maybe I do recognize what Sharon and Gal has told us about enterprise architecture, about data platforms. But what I see more and more, okay, as a company, you want to improve the efficiency, for example, of the end-to-end process. And I think we have traditionally been going into divisional concepts. And I think also both from IT, but also from the business, we should look at end-to-end and how to improve that process, because typically we're optimized, let's say, in certain fragments of the business, but end-to-end is a challenge. And I think the same counts if you look at the customer journey. You have all these kind of touch points, but how do you align all of those going forward? And I think there can be also a big role for IT to align all these processes and bring business units together in optimizing those, for example.
Okay, yes, please.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think there's still some kind of frustration on time to market expectations. So if you are not following general frameworks, as you mentioned before, the time you spend to integrate new technology and to deploy in an scalable way new technology probably is longer than some of our business units think about it. So I totally agree. I mean, in my opinion, how long does it take to deploy a new technology? It's still a weak point in the IT and business relationship.
Okay, great. John, you want to add to that, I'm sure, but you need to unmute first.
I understand technology. I'll hit the unmute button. So the biggest place you're going to see this, particularly in the end-to-end, I'm literally just back from Frankfurt. I came in this morning, and I'm working for a manufacturer there at the moment. And people will know, for people who work in the manufacturing context, you will know, for example, we always had this concept of OT, operational technology, and IT, information technology. Yeah, and those things were always kept separate. And because OT was fundamentally the crown jewels, you're using your manufacturing lines, etc., to produce. You produce the goods, you produce the services using your OT, etc. with the advent of AI, and at some point somebody was going to use the words AI, it was going to happen. With the advent of AI, it's changing entirely. The expectation right now is that, certainly from the manufacturer I'm currently working with, is that you must have a completely end-to-end view of the entire enterprise. And that is talking about, and I'm not going to use too many technical terms in this conversation, but being in a scenario where you can convert your IoT messaging, so your Internet of Things messaging, to your AI, being able to interpret what's happening using predictive analytics. If something is going to fail, understand that it's going to fail before it happens. And then further down the chain, if this thing in fact actually fails, what does that mean in terms of what I need to supply to a retailer at a point in time? And on the flip side of that, you want to build a service business around what you manufacture. And then suddenly it becomes, am I capable of monitoring everything I have in the field? Can I predict failure in the context of the field? Can I optimize in the context of the field, etc.? So the very nature of business and the very expectation of the customer is such that you, the supplier, or you, the retailer, or you, the manufacturer, have a full end-to-end of your business, and you're capable of providing me with a service, and I shouldn't have to worry about all the bits that are joined up in the background. And it's you know, people talk about data. Data is fundamental, and managing data and regulating data, and obviously controlling it in a secure way, etc. But you will find that many of the people and many of the CIOs that I'm now working with, the very, very fundamental thing they're doing is, let's break down the data barriers. Let's remove the data silos. Now that comes with its own issues. That comes with issues, you know, of privacy. That comes with issues associated with security. That comes with issues associated with IP and making IP available, etc. So there are many, many issues in terms of dealing with that. But in order to meet the expectation of your customer, you have to have that completely joined up view. Yeah. So it's interesting. It's what I've been focusing on in just alone in the last couple of days. 3 days of it in a workshop.
Okay. Thank you so much. Aaron, let's go to you on this question at A6. You built a global security capability, and with business users potentially procuring their own SaaS applications, using no-code tools and so on. I want to get back to that. How do you maintain robust security in that environment and compliance without being the department that also say, no, you can't do that?
Well, I think it comes back to your previous question, that is identifying where are we weakest in our value chain, identify where we need to apply our skill sets to, I would suggest, reduce the perceived need to avoid us. You know, people are funny things. When you give them an objective, they'll tend to sort of head for it. And if things are perceived to be hurdles in their way, like security, then, you know, with the goodness of their heart, they'll still try and find a way around us. Our job is to be perceived as a credible partner in all of this. We understand and we speak the language of the business, so that when people want to innovate, they want to get something out to market, or they've got another problem along the way, one of their first thoughts is of us. We give them the opportunity to play in an environment. We set the guardrails in a way that they almost don't notice them. I think if we aspire to, at the very least, enable the business, but ideally to excite the business to the concept of what digital can offer, and have that security, to have the governance, to have the guardrails as transparent as possible and less obvious in the experience of running the business. I think that is the key to that partnership, and to not having to say no, because we're not putting our partners in that situation where we would have to say it.
Okay, an interesting question from the audience is the following. Under NIS2, CIOs, CTOs will bear direct responsibility for their organization's cyber resilience, including potential personal liabilities in case of non-compliance and negligence. So are you prepared to mitigate that risk And do you personally accept the consequences if resilience fails? Or in the end, is the end of leadership, is this the end? Not because the mission is too great, but because of the personal risk? I think that's a very interesting question.
I think it depends on which litigious society one lives in. I don't think we're in the business of crucifying people for giving it their best shot. So long as you demonstrate that you're doing what you believe is right and you keep the record straight along the way, and you're not proven to be lying or withholding, I think we're okay.
So you don't see that as a problem, Aaron?
No, I do not. No.
Okay. Anybody else see that as a you keeping up at night because of this? No. Okay. Good. Let's go.
Let me add a bit there. Absolutely not. I mean, ultimately, you're taking responsibility for doing a job. There is a lot of money, a lot of investment in what you're doing. You publish what your plan is. And, you know, I fundamentally believe in enterprise architecture. So I was a practicing enterprise architect for years. You publish your plan. You publish what you're going to do. You have it peer reviewed. And then you get somebody independently to check that your organization is adhering to what you're doing, to the plan, to the process, etc. And that is the best you can do, right? And if you can demonstrate that capability and that level of enablement, then it's not going to be a problem. Yeah, okay. Sometimes you have to have rules.
There was another question for you, John, from the audience. As OT and IT increasingly converge, especially in critical infrastructure manufacturing environments, how do you ensure a secure and scalable integration model without compromising the agility or safety on either side? And do you see a future where OT and IT are tightly integrated, or should they remain loosely coupled with strong interfaces? Interesting question.
That's a really good question, okay? And I cannot answer that question in its entirety, depending upon the nature of the OT and mission critical infrastructure. However, I spent 3 years working in the cement business, and that does not make people very happy when they hear that, because it's a very dirty business, and it's prone, therefore, to interference from external activity. Let's put it in that shape. But even that business, you know, to turn off a kiln is the thing that makes cement. Yeah, you turn off a kiln, you're looking at a €1 million activity to do that. Yeah, because you have to clean it, remove the bricks, etc. Even in that scenario, that company that I worked for had merged IT and OT. Yeah, and it was for many reasons. Part of the reasons was, of course, because of the IT becoming digital itself. Yeah, growing complexity in terms of the actual OT equipment. That was one of the major reasons. The second reason was, of course, the disciplines that are applied in security should be uniform in terms of what's applied in both OT and IT. So the rigor that you apply in both scenarios is very similar. And then finally, the question always asked is in relation to air bridging. Air bridging is the traditional way of doing it. You keep them on totally separate networks, no physical connectivity, etc. But even that is changing. If that person wants to ping me after this meeting, then by all means they can do so. But there are devices there which will facilitate connectivity between IT and OT and are underwritten by guaranteeing security between the various different environments. So coupled from an API perspective, yes, that doesn't forgo the need for the rigor around security, applicable in both IT and OT.
Okay, great. The chat is on fire. More questions for you, Sharon. You've worked across multiple industries, companies from all and companies from all that experience. What is for you the single most important lesson that you have learned about leading IT in a way that truly drives business value? And what's the one insight you believe every IT leader in this room should take to heart? So a very precise question for you. What's your number one lesson that you have learned in this topic?
Yeah, the number one lesson for me has been that as I explained in my introduction, the movement of where IT sits within a business is such that IT has to become much more business savvy. So they have to build very, very strong business acumen. And at the same time, the business has to really understand and get a lot closer to technology. So the separation, there is no longer an ocean between the two functions. It's bringing it much, much closer together. The aspect of what that actually drives is the ability for an organization to move at scale and quickly without having, as I explained around the enterprise architecture guardrails, without having so many start, stop, traffic light signs that is slowing the business down. So I'm a firm believer of co-creation and the fact that business and IT need to come together a lot quicker and work much closer together so that there isn't that big separation. That's been, over the last couple of decades, my biggest learning in terms of the evolvement of the role of the CIO and certainly the role of IT.
Okay, super. Let's go to the second chapter of our discussion here today, where we talk about IT as a strategic partner and continuous delivery, ecosystems, and so on. So the age of multi-year outsourcing and rigid IT roadmaps is already gone for quite some time, and businesses now demand smaller, iterative projects that deliver value very quickly. And the CIO role expands to include facilitating this rapid iteration and to building cross-functional teams and to leverage data for responsiveness and relevance. So you must create strong, balanced ecosystems. So with trusted partners inside the companies, trusted partners outside the company, that will bring a variety of skills to the table while you maintain a continuous delivery and integration at pace. So maybe, Tom, I want to start with you on this here. I mean, you spent quite some time at Daikin already. You had a long career there. So you have seen the evolution of IT. You have seen this shift. So how has the approach to large IT initiatives changed? And how do you balance the need for rapid iteration with the stability that is required in a typical manufacturing environment?
Well, let me maybe start with the last thing, because of course, I think we are a manufacturing company, but I think any company requires stability. So let's not throw away all the lessons learned from the past. I think that's the first thing. But you do see indeed, if you look at the way we approach the action plan, for example, on a yearly basis, but also on a multi-year basis, and in the past, this was really like a fixed commitment. We started the year and projects were really executed one by one, preferably in the timing that was promised. These days, we look more at the roadmap where, okay, we look at the multi-year program and we try to swap a bit depending on, okay, what is happening around us, what is happening in the company. And I see also, from a business side, in the past, there was no acceptance that we would move or cancel a project because they were afraid that it would never reappear, while now they understand the concept of a roadmap, which means, okay, priorities can switch, so let's work with this. And of course, as also many of the colleagues here have mentioned, we are also in the phase where we offer touch points to our customers. Of course, there we need to have a different approach. There we mainly listen to the feedback of the market, and there indeed you need this more agile approach where, okay, you have continuous delivery, and also there, step by step, we also move into this concept of fusion teams where actually, okay, the difference between business and IT becomes rather blurry, but the objective is common. And okay, let's say the communication lines to get there are as short as possible. Because I do believe, okay, we talk a lot about agility, but I think it's also a challenge for IT to be there where the ITs grow, but also up to business to involve IT where the ITs grow, because from there we can work, let's say, hand in hand to build a solution rather than being involved at a very late stage and then being under time pressure for whatever needs to be delivered.
Okay, super. Gal, I want to go to you as next. I mean, you operate in the fast-moving retail sector, right? So everything is fast in retail. So how do you foster agility and this continuous delivery that you need to do with your teams? And how do you make sure that your teams collaborate with the business partners? So how you make sure that you are and your teams are a strategic partner to the business to deploy the new services and features that they need. What's your strategy there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm a strong believer that all of our companies need a midterm strategy plan. So yeah, I do not believe we have a continuous change in technology, because at the end, technology takes time. It's very interrelated, and you need to have some kind of stability on your core business technology. So at the same time, all of our companies have strategy plans. We need to couple our IT strategy plan to that strategy plan. So in this mid-long term, depending on the market, for us is 3 years, so it's not that's long term. But you need to foresee what's going to happen. At least the big changes that you need in technology to help your colleagues in our company to accomplish those goals they are foreseeing in the strategy plan. That doesn't mean that you cannot change that every week if you like, but you need to help everybody, IT team mainly, for those decisions that are important to take, having in mind that midterm. That's in the one side. On the other hand, for sure, retail changes very fast. And how do we handle these changes? This is usually those changes are usually very related to sales and product design. So it's mostly logistics takes less changes, manufacturing also it's slower in change management. So we have very specific places in our business processes where we open this fast change with fast teams, business and IT teams. We almost a couple of months, we review all of our project plan, current project, future projects. We review continuously the business cases, because you can foresee something is going to generate revenue in the next month. This changes because your whatever process changed for any reason, any environmental reason. So we have to balance the long term, let's call long term, and the short terms, and there has to be a basement that has to be a little bit stable in terms of technology, because otherwise the chaos can be generated very easily when you start introducing new technology which is not properly integrated, which is not properly data management, which generates risk in for example in data security. That's what we're doing in those.
Okay, great. We've got another question from the audience, and that is, as CIOs and digital leaders increasingly take on the role of facilitators and ecosystem builders, what do you value most in a trusted partner and a trusted supplier? And just as importantly, how do you stay open to new partners, ideas, and innovation outside of your current network? Aaron, you mind commenting on that? How do you select? Are you open to partnerships? How do you make sure that also in your domain of security and cloud and infrastructure, I mean the solid platforms of the company, you make sure that you build strategic partnerships there?
Absolutely. I believe strongly in the right tool for the job. So we don't single source, nor do we try to create a bowl of spaghetti of various parties. But the most important thing for me is to build a true partnership. I need to see a demonstrable effort on behalf of my vendor partners to understand my business, to apply, just like I do in my business, in order to be the expert in the room. I need to be able to articulate that in the words of the business. I seek that in my vendor partners as well. And I expect them to be coming to the table, sharing their roadmaps. I too share my roadmaps, but I also want more than just what's on paper. The deal to me is a collection of expectations, a collection of shared experience and knowledge, a willingness to be vulnerable with each other. So the ideal partnerships I have are the ones where I and my team are able to be part of their product, my vendor partner's product development cycle. We're actually helping influence what's coming down the pipeline, and to be able to feed back to them. At the same time, using the ASICS logo to their benefit. I want to see that true partnership. So for me, that is the most important. New partners are coming up all the time. Many people are trying to court us to take on their, to bring them on as business. That's totally fine. And I think the thing we need to remember is that we and our partners, we are all competing. I compete against the latest SaaS that that VP has just gone out and had lunch with or something like that. I have to remain competitive. My vendors have to remain competitive. I am open to having any conversation with any party, but I want to see how my existing partners in whom I've invested, I want to see how they respond to that as well. But what's extremely important here is to maintain your vision, your strategy, and your roadmap. It keeps you honest. Tomorrow, there may be some amazing technology that comes out, but you start to look a little bit like a butterfly if you're just leaping after the latest things. I need to see coherence. I need to be able to present that cogent message to my business. And I see my partners as being a key part of that.
Okay, super. So John, you there's the wish list for the strategic partner. So you're from the supplying side. How do you look at this? How do you make sure that Fujitsu is the right partner for big organizations like the one around the table here?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to respond to it. I think I like the use of language. I like the use of the word vulnerable. You don't come to the party trying to know everything, right? You cannot have the answer to everything when you're working with a customer. The person who knows most about the customer's business is the customer, all right? I think I said it in the byline. It was in the introduction to this. It's important not to come with the solution, right? Don't arrive with the solution on day one. You have to give yourself a bit of time to understand the customer's business. I think there's, many of the customers that I work with, particularly the new customers that I work with, the fundamentals are always about deliver. In other words, if you make a promise, then actually meet your promise. Yeah, and it's the basis on which trust exists in a relationship. In other words, I'm going to do what I've actually said I'm going to do. So from my perspective, delivery is really, really important. The other, I like the comment about the butterfly, right? Because for a guy, and I work in research in Fujitsu, I work in technology strategy, and I work with customers. That's what I live in Fujitsu. And in research, I could see something new every single day. I mean, literally, I could see something new every single day. And there is value in what I see because maybe that piece of research is 5 years out, in other words, from a delivery perspective, or 10 years out from a delivery perspective, or in some cases, 1 year out. And if, there's some work being done, for example, around security and large language models, which a lot of customers are interested in. But the reality of it is, at the very least, I have that pieces of knowledge at my fingertips, so I can help the customer in some way influence the thinking, or did you know these things are happening, etc. However, the comment about the butterfly is actually really important. You can become enamored with the technology. It's really, really easy. All right. Particularly take it from a technologist. I know. All right. At the moment, I absolutely love everything quantum. But the reality of it is, how useful is it right now to my customer? One of the ways, and I guarantee you, everybody on this call will have had a member of their organization come to them and say, look at this thing, I'm working on it at home right now. You should consider this as a CIO because I'm able to do this at home. And I've had those conversations many, many times. One of the things you can do, and it kind of relates to this whole topic about democratization and technology is everywhere. One of the things you can do is provide your organization with a sandbox, all right? A place where they can go and play, all right? And many of the customers that I'm working with now, a lot of the pharmas, for example, the crown jewels are the clinical trials, the crown jewels are the IP which are associated with the drugs, the technologies for development of new drugs, And that's in the context of what's happening in AI and what's happening in some of the quantum inspired technologies, combinatorial type technologies, etc. But I mean, when you talk to the CIO, the biggest fear is that IP is going to leak out in some way out of the organization. All right. Yet the clinicians want to test things. They have ideas of how to test things. Provide them with a sandbox and bound the sandbox. Yeah. There's technology to facilitate doing that. Yeah. That's part of the, help them with the new ideas, help them not to be a butterfly, but to appreciate the new technologies, etc.
Okay.
You may want to adopt some of it. Fine. It still needs to be scalable. It still needs to be secure. It still needs to be available. All the things that a properly run organization needs to have, but you provide them with the capability.
Good. Great. Sharon, over to you. I mean, you've worked across diverse sectors, right? So, and external partners are crucial for success as an IT leader. And so you need, when you enter in a company, you need to make sure that you have a balanced ecosystem. And so how does that work in this era of continuous delivery? I mean, it's no longer shopping it over to the supplier and then waiting 6-12 months to have it back. So how do you build strategic partnerships and how do you make sure they're not just a vendor, but really a partner? What's your approach in that?
Yeah, it's a really great question, Hendrik. And I'm going to touch on stuff that Aaron also raised. And I can imagine a lot of the suppliers and partners I've worked with in the past probably sitting on the edge of their seat waiting to see what I'm going to say. But for me, the most important aspect of this is because the rate of delivery has accelerated. So the question on how you build those strategic partnerships is even more important. And yes, having worked across industries, as I said, in aviation and retail and government, the one thing I have learned is that you cannot simply do everything in-house. Certainly not at the speed and scale, or even the complexity that a modern business would demand. So external partners are absolutely critical in building what I call the delivery muscle. But the key really isn't just on building it. It's not just having the ecosystem, but not ensuring that it's not just the supply chain. You need a network of partners, and you need to really understand what are the right capabilities, whether it's deep technical expertise or innovation at the edge, which you don't have in-house, or the ability to scale quickly. But you need to understand how your business operates and the context of the business, and you're investing really in the outcome. So the partners is really, really important. And what I see, and the reason I said some of the partners I've worked with in the past are sitting on their edge, because how do I separate a strategic partner from just a vendor? And in my mind, a vendor is someone who just delivers a service or a product to a spec. Whereas a strategic partner, and the way I describe it, is they co-create with you. They can challenge me on my thinking. They bring insights from other industries. They're proactive and they're not just reactive, really. But the other aspect really for me is the long-term view, because that's what you want. And I talked about enterprise architecture earlier. The partnerships and the strategic partners brings that long-term view and helps you because they know that their success is tied to your success. And that's the key difference on a strategic partner. One example where I have seen this work really well is with cloud and infrastructure partners that I've worked with at Heathrow. So we weren't just buying capability or capacity or support. We were really working together to modernize some of the many legacy systems, enhancing resilience, enabling new passenger-facing digital services. And that kind of collaboration really requires a real deep alignment on goals. And we both had joint governance. So we really understood both from a Heathrow perspective, but also the partner perspective, what that governance was. And he had to really build that open transactional relationship that goes beyond the transaction.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really important for me. But what I also want to say is, and this is where the edge of the seat conversation comes, balance is really important. You cannot over rely on any one partner, or you lose sight of your internal capability. So I always advocate for core versus context. So in strategy, you have to retain and develop internal capability where it really drives that strategic differentiation. And partners externally help with speed, scale, and specialization on expertise.
Okay, super. Thank you so much, Sharon, for that. Gal, let's talk about the third chapter of our conference here today, and that is where we talk about leadership, converging IT leadership, business leadership, IT having to make sure that they have done a really sharp business acumen. So you, in your video, and you mentioned it before, you talk about passion, about understanding the business that is key. But according to you, what are really the core business skills that are absolutely essential for a CIO today? I mean, you come from a very different environment into a jewelry business. So how do you make sure that you really can understand how a jewelry business works? So tell us a little bit about your experience there.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. So here in TOS, we have quite long onboarding process. So we spend a lot of hours in every process in our companies. It's quite long in our case. So we are in the design team. We spend days also in the manufacturing, then in the logistics in one of our big warehouses, and then directly selling by yourself, trying to do your best. And we follow all the training courses that all of our business teams does. So that's the first step. And I encourage everybody to follow something like this. With all of in IT, to follow the same. Every department do the same, but mainly in IT, we ask our HR department to force everybody to follow all these steps. Because if you get the pulse of your business, you have to go directly where your business is. So that's the first thing. The other skill you need is finance. So, and I don't know in the rest of the world, but in Spain, all the engineers' careers lacks, in my opinion, of a strong finance background. So you have to understand what general ledger is, what an asset is, how you get whatever that your company needs, because you have to discuss a lot with your finance team, and you need to talk with the same language that they talk. So that's, for me, that's another important skill. And the third one, is probably most of us will agree, is how you interact with your peers. So it's very important to have patience. So it's very easy to make a mistake that think that everybody understands the technology as we do. And most people say, yeah, I know. But at the end, it's difficult for our business units to see the whole picture. I think that Sharon mentioned before. All our processes, how the technology handles the information around the processes. Then there are only few people in companies today that can have this big picture. That gives us an advantage. But in the other hand, it's a weakness, because you think that everybody has the same information. And then we tend to go faster in terms of understanding, analyzing, and proposing solution, and have to spend more time making every of our users understand where he fits in the whole company process. And the fourth one, I have to say an extra one, is handle expectations. That's the very difficult. So it's and I haven't seen any company in my previous jobs where IT is mostly late. Let's say the only way you can avoid this is advance to the future needs. So you have to understand what everybody's thinking for the next year and 2 years in ahead, and start thinking how we will solve that situation next year. Because sooner or later, someone will come to you and say, oh, I want to solve these problems and I want it for tomorrow. And then you're late.
Okay.
You're late.
Thank you so much, Gal Aron. Gal talked about what a CIO needs. I mean, he needs to be financial savvy and be strong in communication and so on and so on. Let's talk a little bit about how we make sure that our teams are also really connecting with business value and that they know how to demonstrate ROI and so on. So, I mean, you manage quite a number of teams in different areas. So how do you make sure that your people, that they really speak the language of business? Are you sending them on similar onboarding? Do you send them to the shops or to the, how does that work at the ASICS and in your teams?
So ASICS in general has a very good onboarding. We all get dipped into the ASICS blue in no time. We understand, our heritage. 75 years is a long time to be making shoes. So there's a lot to be said. There's a lot to learn. The narrative is good. It sinks in well. What I do as an IT leader, though, is to be the exemplar of the one who, the way I want people to behave. So my language, my conversations, my challenges, my proposals are always couched in how many shoes is that? Or is that enabling us to sell shoes? Or will that stop us from selling shoes? It is a consistent message that at the end of the day, we are all, regardless of where we sit in this organization, we're all selling shoes. Take that exemplar statement one step further. I also am quite keen to demonstrate vulnerability. It's okay to ask questions. In fact, it's a good idea to ask questions. If you don't understand something about the business, please do not be afraid to be curious and to seek the answer. There's nothing worse than just keeping your silence and being ignorant and not getting it. So it's a two-way thing. I want to be a credible source of inspiration. I want to ensure that when somebody wants to do something, they're able to articulate the value to ASICS and therefore its customers in business terms. But I also want to encourage people are able to educate and be open about needing to learn and close those knowledge gaps.
Okay. So we talked about how the CIO needs to be business savvy, how we can make sure that the teams do that. And Tom, also in your interview and of course in this conversation as well, we talked about business leaders need to become more IT savvy. So how significant is today still the tech literacy gap in non-IT leadership? And what is it that you at Daikin do to make sure that your C-suite executives and your business executives, that they really start to understand how technology is driving their operations and future?
Not a simple question, but maybe a few elements. So I think, what we also experience, technology moves at a very quick pace. So it's a challenge for us, let alone that we expect business leaders to keep track of what is happening. A second thing that is also reality, I think most business leaders of today are surely not digital natives. So, they have a certain, let's say, gap in their background versus younger people maybe. And also, I think what is different than in the past is that a lot of technology is immediately also broadcasted in the media. If we talk about ChatGPT, we talk about DeepSeek. The day after, you get 20,000 questions about when are we going to apply this. So I think that's also a bit in expecting of managing the expectations there. And to be fair, also business leaders, also business itself isn't becoming less complex. So they also have to keep track, of course, what is happening there. So that are a bit the challenges. How do we try to, let's say, bridge this gap? Is I think, by having regular contact with them. In our overall governance, we have what we call portfolio meetings where we discuss their specific roadmap. What is planned, what is in the pipeline, but also try to sense a little bit, where we are maybe stuck, certain ideas that we can't execute, maybe due to lack of technology, due to lack of insight. And I think that the element which has really helped us in the past years is that we have invested in setting up a dedicated IT innovation team, where actually we try to make the mix between what is happening in technology, what do we hear at business side challenge wise, and can we somehow merge the two? So we try to bring forward specific business problems that, okay, we can solve from the IT or technology perspective, but we leave, let's say, the technology at our side, and we try to talk with them about value creation, about creating results, and let them assess whether it would be a good solution or not. So really avoiding having these questions like, okay, let's implement, I don't know, Copilot, ChatGPT, whatever kind of solution, but okay, what is the problem we're trying to solve here? And bringing up that kind of conversation. So it let's say, brings up or increases their knowledge a little bit on technology, but also helps us to understand where can we really make the difference. So that's a bit how we approach this today.
Okay, great. John, you talk to a lot of IT leaders all over Europe. You travel around a lot. So do you see a difference where it is at your clients, where it works well, where it doesn't work well? Do you see an impact of business teams not really being IT savvy enough? And is it also you consider it your task to help these organizations to become more business savvy on the business side?
Or even IT savvy on the business side, I think. Yes, I meet a lot of CIOs, and I do get around. I think, go back to Tom's point for a moment. I've been to organizations where, at board level, when they said, we need to introduce AI. And I would respond to that, I don't understand what that means, okay? Because my very next question is, what is your use case? Tell me what your use case is going to be, yeah? Or articulate for me where you believe AI is going to reduce cost or make you more, you're more efficient in terms of what you're going to do, etc. And questions like, what is the maximum you're prepared to spend on an AI to achieve this prospective efficiency that you're going to get? So when you start getting into those type of questions, it suddenly becomes a discussion which is not about AI or even technology. It becomes about the business. You need to get some parameters in terms of the technology that you're going to adopt. So the first and foremost, it's always a business discussion rather than a technology discussion. The second thing which I'm seeing a lot of is education sessions. So many CIOs are now running education sessions for senior management in their companies. And a simple thing is when you start to explain, for example, something like a large language model and generative AI, all right? And the perception sometimes at senior management is these things are capable of doing everything, all right? And then you bring to the party the fact that accuracy is a problem when it comes to large language models. And if you want something which is deterministic, it's a problem in relation to large language models. And if you want something which is agentic, which is going to run and execute something on your behalf autonomously from you, then that can be a problem in the context of large language models. But you need to explain to them what a large language model can do and give them a small demonstration. So that's what we've done even in our own company for senior management people. And we're a technology company. Now, I'll relay a small story. 4 or 5 weeks ago, I was at an analyst relations session. So you know the way they draw you on a graph where you are in terms of your technology. You know, are you up in the top right-hand corner or are you in the bottom left-hand corner? And the DeepSeek story broke. On the very morning I was going to get up and do a lecture on artificial intelligence. And all they wanted to talk about was DeepSeek. They didn't want to talk about anything else, which was absolutely fine. So I talked about DeepSeek. But the interesting thing about DeepSeek, and again, it's still somewhat opaque in terms of how much they spent on developing DeepSeek, etc. But DeepSeek is not new from a technology perspective. There are companies in Europe using mixture of experts. There are companies in Europe who have refined the model and pruned the model so that it's extremely efficient and extremely accurate. And there are companies which have used model distillation and data distillation to develop their own models. So when you put all, oh, by the way, on under the covers, it's also written in assembly language, not Python, okay? So for the technologists in the audience, you'll know, if you're an old guy like me, that many of these things are not new technology at all. It's simply a revisiting of the technologies and combination to make a new converged solution, etc. Most of my morning was taken up with the analyst relations just talking about this technology. So even the analysts who spend every single day of their existence working on a particular topic and deciding whether you should be in the top right-hand corner or the bottom left-hand corner didn't know enough about this particular technology. So how would your senior management be able to do that? Okay? So you have to go through an education process. Explain the thing in a I don't mean simplistic as a derogatory way, but explain it in a way that's understandable to a non-technical person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you can say, right, and typically we can use this for this set of use cases. And by the way, this is when we should not be using this technology. Yeah, and it helps condition the mindset.
Okay. Sharon, I've got a question for you. Was it 3-4 years ago, every other conference would be about digital transformation, right? That was the big thing. And so we hear less and less of it. Are we forgetting about digital transformation, or are we getting into a transformation fatigue? And so when you work at a larger organization like that, is there, how do you make sure that we maintain the energy and the vision and the buy-in for organizations to constantly go through transformation and change? Can you comment on that, please?
Yeah, so I think, digital transformation, and I always give this analogy around what it means, it's only about modernizing businesses using technology. That at its basic, that's what it means. So, is digital transformation still needed today? And
that's the question.
For me, it's absolutely, it's the single most critical mindset shift, I think, for both technologists but also business leaders, that the move really has to be, digital transformation is absolutely here to stay, but we have to move from IT owning it to co-creating with business partners. I think we still think too linear in today's world around the business defining the what and then technology delivering the how. But then it becomes no longer fit for purpose. So the problem, I think, is that we're trying to solve today, and the problems that we're trying to solve today is whether it's about delivering a seamless customer experience, or building intelligent supply chains, or scaling AI responsibility. It requires shared understanding and co-ownership from day one. And that I think is the key change. So for tech leaders, what this means is stepping further, as we talked about right in the beginning. We need to get back into commercial conversations. We need to understand market dynamics, and we need to be more comfortable influencing beyond what would have normally been the traditional IT boundaries. And for business leaders, it means letting go of, I'm not technical. That doesn't fly anymore in 2025. We need to really make sure that businesses are actively engaging with tech, because it underpins the strategy. It underpins all strategy. So as the digital transformation, I really love the question that you asked, because we're not really hearing the phrase as much in some industries. In others, it is starting to build up more. But that's really telling, because in many ways, digital transformation has now just become the baseline. It's no longer a separate initiative. It is the business. Okay. And it's like asking whether globalization is still a thing. If I can say that, we're past the hype cycle, and we're now really, if you're not thinking digital, if businesses aren't thinking digital, they are probably falling behind.
Yep. Got a very interesting question from the audience here, and I'm gonna present it to all of you. And so, if you had a magic wand and you could instantly grant all your senior non-technical business colleagues one specific piece of technology understanding, just overnight like that, what would it be? And why would that specific thing make a very specific, a big difference in the organization? Who wants to take that question? Aaron, you're waiting for it.
I would really love, actually, for everybody to understand the Gartner hype cycle. So it's actually not a specific piece of technology. I would just like people to understand that everything does this. It would, I love people getting excited in technology. I think it's fantastic. It creates phenomenal engagement and conversation. But when you've got marketing and salespeople, rightly and wrongly, overblowing promises, capabilities, and then you've got the poor buggers like us sitting in the business wanting to be part of the solution, but aware of the reality, we end up competing over a nonsense debate. AI can do everything. No, it can't. Not yet. It will be able to do wonderful things, but please understand right now, we are kind of here and we are rapidly about to go screaming down into the trough of despair. If everyone got that idea, then they could ride this roller coaster with us, and there would be less, I would suggest, conflict or frustrations along the way.
Okay, super. Somebody else? Tom?
Well, maybe if I have this magical wand, I would like everybody to understand the importance and the concept of data and analytics, because if you look with many people, it's a long-term approach. It takes quite some time to get there, but it's important that we invest now and that we put the right resources now to get results in the near future. And I do notice that too many people still think that we're building the 20th version of a dashboard, but it goes far beyond this concept. And I really believe that those building blocks can help us going forward, but it needs a lot of upfront investments, both in time but also in attention. So that would be my option.
I want to add another question.
Can I do one? Can I do one before we go? Sure. Security by design. I would love everybody to get that concept. All right. And it's not meant to be an impedance, but think about the world. Ultimately, the current view of Nirvana is that every organization will have AI agents and every application will have AI agents, and we'll all have our own AI agents, and we'll all be sitting in deck chairs drinking pina coladas, and the AI agents are busily working away in the background on our behalf.
What year was that? When was that?
In order for that to be true, in order for that to even remotely be true, every AI agent needs to know that the other AI agent it's currently interacting with is the AI agent who it purports to be and is secure and is conforming to all of the protocols, etc. This is actually only realizable. This whole thing is only realizable, and it's true in all fields, by the way, if we design security right from the very, very beginning. So that would be my ask if I had the magic wand.
Okay. Carl, you want to add to that? Now that we are just dreaming here, right?
I will ask for 2 more magic wands.
2 more.
Only one is scary. But I totally agree with Tom. If you have to choose something, is that everybody in the organization understands that the information is a flow all along a process. And usually departments see their specific part of the information. If you change something upper in the stream or down in the stream, those changes affects the information that flows along the organization. And then, linking with John point, which is important, is how you use the information. And then, everybody, if you ask all the audience, which is the emerging trend technology, everybody will say AI, right? And I'm right now in a Congress, it's 70% of the presentation are AI. If I've been in NRF a couple of months ago in New York, it was AI. So AI is everywhere. So I think that not as a magic wand, but we need to settle and we need to make understand our CEO and our board what AI really means and what AI can really do in our business. Because that's great to develop new molecules, that's great to develop new drugs, but we are individuals. And John is in technology, and Tom is in air conditioning. So AI is not for everything and for everybody, and you have to choose properly where to use it. And data is the fuel of the AI engine, and you need the data to feed the AI. If you do not invest in data, all the rest is nonsense. And totally agree with them. So data, is critical here.
Okay, the last magic wand goes to Sharon.
Yeah, I completely agree with my peers here. Every single CEO I've ever spoken to in the last year, all they want to be is data-driven and AI-led. And it's great, but it puts enormous pressure on CIOs because the ambition is high, but the path actually to get there isn't always straightforward. So it's not just about delivering the infrastructure and the tools. We have to build the platforms, we have to drive cultural change around data, we have to enable ethical, scalable, secure AI across the whole organization. So I don't think the pressure is just on tech. I think it's for the whole organization, and that for me would be my key message. Yes, you need to get the data foundations right, and that's absolutely clear and critical, but you need governance skills across the whole organization, ways of working, that's co-creating, and managing expectations. Everyone wants to shoot for the stars because they think AI's got huge amounts of potential, but I always caveat it with it's not the silver bullet, and it needs the right use cases, and it needs to be introduced, as John says, responsibly. You need secure by design. So the best way for me is the true partnership, really. It's about business leaders understanding that AI-led isn't just about the tool, but it's about transforming how we work and working together, becoming naturally integrated strategically, because everyone's learning at the same time as well. So it needs to be a shared commitment to that learning and failing and scaling and evolving together.
Okay, cool. We're coming slowly to the end of this brilliant conversation. And so we explored very different things: enablement, control, agility, partnerships, convergence, and so on, understanding and collaboration between technology and business. John, if I would ask you as our agent here, could you please, for yourself, what are the key takeaways that we can learn from the discussions that we had here today?
So I've been just making some notes, and I'll keep it very, very short. From my perspective, I think the key takeaways: you still have to design, you still have to govern, you still have to understand the technology. I think we all collectively realize that senior executives don't have the luxury of leaving it to kind of the CIO and the techies. All right? Not if you want to have a true collaboration in the context of an organization. I think the message from me, it's still to be fearless. The technology leader gets closer to the business leader gets closer to technology. Publish your intentions, make your path clear, is my view. Stay agile, and stay within the vision and the strategy. You know, most business visions, the strategy is good for 3 years. The technology will change. Of course, the technology will change. That should simply be the enabler in order for you to get there. It's not the thing. It's simply the enabler.
Okay.
Thanks, Hendrik.
And on that note, John, we're going to wrap up here for today. Huge thank you to the wonderful panel that we had. Thank you, Gal, John, Tom, Aaron, and Sharon. It was a pleasure doing your interview. So don't forget, CIONET.tv for everybody. Check out the long format video interviews that we've done with these 5 wonderful leaders. A huge thank you as well to Fujitsu for organizing this discussion here together with us today. So thank you for Jitsu for this wonderful partnership. Really appreciate it. So check out CIONET TV. If you're a female leader, check out our upcoming events in Germany, Belgium, and the UK. I would also like to thank the CIONET team behind the screens here. Anna, Alicia, Evelina, Ines, Charlotte, Bartosz, and Valentine. That were all very operational, and a big thank you to all of them. And then last but not least, thank you to everybody that has been following our conversation here today. I hope you had as much pleasure and fun and learnings that we had here. So hope to see you soon on one of the next CIONET activities. Bye for now. We're going to go out with a small video. Ciao. Bye, everybody. Thank you. For the last 15 years, I've been on a quest to discover the DNA of the most successful digital leaders in the world. What makes them tick, what's in their minds and in their hearts. We are sharing deep insights from our world-class CIOs so that you get inspired, can learn and reach your full potential as a digital leader. If you are an ambitious technology executive, then I invite you to join CIONET. Join our community so that you too can realize your ambition.